Imagine a blacksmith, one of those old ones, standing in front of his anvil. Each strike of his hammer is not a product of chance, but of intention. He does not hit without thinking. Each impact is calculated, each movement pursues a purpose. With patience and precision, he shapes the steel until it becomes a formidable tool. Just as the blacksmith molds the metal, you can mold your words. But if you lift the hammer without purpose, you will only get shapeless fragments, noise without meaning. Speaking is easy. Anyone can open their mouth and fill the air with empty words. But being heard, truly being heard, is a privilege reserved for those who know how to use language with purpose. In a world where everyone screams to be noticed, the voices that resonate are not the loudest, but the most precise. Stoic philosophy not only teaches how to face adversity firmly, it also reveals how to master the art of communication. The Stoics understood that words are powerful tools, capable of building or destroying, inspiring or manipulating. They did not speak on impulse, but with intention. Today, in this era of unfiltered opinions and superficial speeches, learning to communicate with clarity and authority is more crucial than ever. It's not about impressing others, but about being understood, about leaving a mark in the mind of the listener. Because true influence lies not in the number of words you say, but in the weight they carry. In this video, we will explore 8 Stoic principles that will transform your way of communicating. These are not theoretical tips. They are practical lessons that you can apply in your daily life. If you've ever felt that your ideas have no impact or that your words get lost in the noise, then pay attention. Because after this, you will not only speak, but you will make yourself heard. And the best part, you will do it with respect and authority. Now get ready, because what's coming is not for those looking for shortcuts or easy solutions. It's for those who are willing to face the truth, improve, and take full control of their voice. Let's get started. 1. Make your words a privilege, not a habit. Every word you utter is like a gold coin. Every time you speak, you decide whether you deliver value or waste it. Most people speak without thinking, like those who spend without looking at their pocket. But the Stoics knew that wasted words have a price, and that price is the loss of respect, credibility, and influence. For the Stoics, speaking was an act of responsibility. Epictetus made it clear: first learn the meaning of what you say, then speak. They did not use words to fill awkward silences or impress others. Each sentence had a purpose. Each conversation was an opportunity to build, not to destroy. If you want to be heard and respected, you have to understand this. Your words should be tools, not waste. The problem is that we live in an era where speaking has become a compulsion. We have opinions on everything, even when we know nothing. Social media is the perfect example. A multitude of voices, each shouting to be seen, regardless of whether what they say carries any weight. But words spoken without intention are like a blunt sword. They make noise, but they don't cut. If you want to stand out, you need to change your approach. It's not about speaking less out of fear or insecurity, but about speaking better. Every time you open your mouth, make sure it's for a valid reason. Ask yourself, does what I'm about to say add anything? Does it help solve a problem? Does it inspire, guide, or build? If not, silence can be your greatest ally. In Stoic practice, silence is not a sign of weakness. It's a display of control. Only those who master their words also master their mind. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, understood this perfectly. In his meditations, he wrote, "If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not useful, do not do it. This simple rule can completely transform your communication. When words become a privilege and not a habit, people start to really listen to you. They will notice that you don't speak for the sake of speaking, that every time you express yourself, there is a clear intention behind it. And when someone with that reputation decides to raise their voice, others pay attention, because they know that what you will say will have value. In addition, when you reduce the number of purposeless words, you gain something invaluable: mental clarity. Verbal diarrhea not only pollutes conversations, it also clouds thought. Every time you suppress the urge to speak without reason, you strengthen your discipline. And discipline, according to the Stoics, is the key to a full and virtuous life. This does not mean that you should become a distant or inaccessible figure. It's not about avoiding conversations or appearing indifferent. On the contrary, a person who values their words is often also the most authentic. When you choose to speak with intention, you do so from honesty and reflection, not from the need for approval or the pursuit of attention. So the next time you feel the urge to fill a silence with empty words, pause. Ask yourself if it's necessary, if what you're going to say will make any difference, and if not, remain silent. Because that silence, far from being uncomfortable, will be a demonstration of your control and your respect for the power of the word. Speak less and say more. That is the true essence of communicating with impact. When you understand this, you no longer fear the void that silence leaves. You embrace it because you know that every word you utter from now on will carry a weight that not everyone can bear. Make your words a privilege and watch how respect comes without you having to demand it. 2. Don't let your tongue run faster than your mind. You are an archer in the middle of the battlefield. Around you, the noise is deafening and the tension burns you inside. You feel the urgency to act, to release the arrow as soon as possible. But an impulsive archer is a dead archer. If you give in to the rush, your shot will fail and you will be exposed. On the other hand, if you control your breathing, align your sight, and wait for the right moment, your arrow will fly with precision, without the need to shoot twice. So are your words. Every time you speak without thinking, it's like releasing an arrow without aiming. And the consequences, just like on the battlefield, are irreversible. The Stoics understood this principle better than anyone. For them, the tongue should be like the tense bow, only released with intention. Seneca said, "Speak only when what you have to say is more valuable than your silence." But we live in a time where that silence seems unbearable. We are taught that the first to speak is the strongest, that speed wins debates, and that silence is synonymous with defeat. And so, like trembling archers, we fire words without thinking, without purpose. Immediacy is celebrated. Each quick response receives momentary applause, but what remains afterwards is the echo of empty words. How many times have you felt that burning in your chest, that need to respond instantly? Maybe it was in the middle of a discussion, an unexpected criticism, or a hurtful comment. In those moments, every second without responding seems like a humiliation. But it's a trap, because the words said in the heat of the moment are not yours. They are the reflection of your anger, your ego, your fear. And what they destroy is not only the relationship with others, but also your own dignity. Epictetus warned us, "It's not what happens that hurts us, but our reaction to it." That reaction lives in your tongue, waiting for the slightest provocation to jump. But whoever masters their tongue masters their destiny. Not responding immediately doesn't make you weak. On the contrary, it makes you someone worthy of respect. Because the silence of the wise weighs more than 1,000 words said by a fool. And it's not just about avoiding arguments. It's also about knowing when your voice adds and when it only generates more noise. Look around you. We live surrounded by shouting voices, empty comments, and impulsive speeches. Social networks are full of unrestrained words, each one competing to be the fastest, the most hurtful. But in the midst of that chaos, the voices that really stand out are those who know how to wait. True authority doesn't need to raise its voice, because every word spoken with intention is enough for everyone to listen. Practicing the pause doesn't mean being silent forever. It means giving your mind time to decide. The next time you feel the urge to respond without thinking, remember the archer. Breathe. Tense the bow, but don't release the string without reason. Ask yourself, am I responding or just reacting? Does what I'm going to say add value or just satisfy my need to win? Because when you speak with intention, every word is a precise arrow. In addition, the pause gives you more than control. It gives you perspective. In that brief moment of reflection, you are able to see the whole situation. You may discover that the anger wasn't so justified, that the criticism wasn't so personal, or that your silence, in reality, was the best response. This not only protects you from the consequences of impulsive words, but also strengthens your character. Every time you choose not to react, you strengthen your discipline. The Stoics not only believed in the importance of controlling the tongue, they also knew that this practice was constant training. Don't wait for the next argument to try it. Practice it every day. Listen more. Respond less. And when you speak, do it with intention. Become that archer who doesn't shoot without aiming, but waits for the perfect moment for his arrow to hit the target. Don't let your tongue run faster than your mind. Adjust your aim, control your pulse, and make every word shoot straight to the target. Because whoever masters their words ends up mastering their life. 3. Inhale certainty, exhale meaning. You are a sculptor of words. In front of you is a rough block of marble, your thought. With each word you choose, you chisel a shape, give life to an idea. But if your hand trembles or your vision is blurry, each stroke is a risk. Without clarity, you will only leave cracks and scattered fragments. Instead, when you work with certainty, each movement is firm, precise. The final work is not only seen, it is admired. And so it happens when you speak. Each word is a chisel stroke. If you hesitate, falter, or speak without purpose, your message crumbles. But if you inhale certainty before speaking, what you exhale is meaning. Certainty is not arrogance. It does not mean that you must know everything. It is the security of knowing your own ideas, understanding your perspective, and holding it firmly. When you speak with this conviction, people notice it. Confidence is felt. Not because you raise your voice or adorn your words, but because each sentence you say has a purpose. Each word is a conscious decision. But here's the problem. Most people do not live as sculptors, but as rubble. They speak without thinking, without form, without direction. They respond impulsively, say what they think others want to hear, or worse yet, what suits them at the moment. But those hollow words, although they momentarily fill the silence, leave no trace. They are like dust carried by the wind. Now ask yourself, how many times have you spoken without really being sure of what you were saying? Perhaps in a discussion, where pride pushed your words before your reason, or in a trivial conversation, where you filled the empty spaces with weightless comments. And then, that discomfort, That feeling that what you said was not entirely true, not because it was a lie, but because it was not your truth. Because you did not speak with certainty, you just reacted. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the true power of the word is born from inner mastery. It's not about talking a lot, but about talking with meaning. And for that, you first need clarity. Before saying something, pause. Ask yourself, do I really believe this? Do I know why I say it? Does it contribute something, or just fill the air? If you cannot answer with certainty, then do not speak. There is no shame in silence. In fact, being silent when you have nothing valuable to say is an act of respect towards yourself and others. On the other hand, speaking with meaning also involves standing by what you say. When your words are born from conviction, you do not need the approval of others to validate your stance. You are not afraid of disagreements because you do not speak to please. You speak to express what you really think, and that inspires respect. Even those who disagree with you will recognize your honesty and confidence. However, this does not mean being inflexible. Part of inhaling certainty is being willing to question yourself. A true sculptor is not afraid to correct his work when he sees an imperfection. Likewise, when you realize that your words lacked foundation, or that there was a greater truth that you were unaware of, admitting it does not weaken you, it strengthens you. Because certainty is not stubbornness, it is clarity. And clarity includes recognizing when you have been wrong. So, before speaking, do what a sculptor would do in front of his work. Inhale certainty. Visualize what you want to communicate. Define your purpose, and make sure that each word you sculpt serves to reveal that vision. Then, and only then, exhale meaning. Let what you say leave an impression. Let each sentence have weight. Let each idea you share build, not destroy. You are a sculptor of words, and the quality of your work will not depend on how many words you use, but on how precise they are. Because in a world where everyone strikes aimlessly, whoever handles the chisel with certainty and purpose will be the one who leaves an indelible mark. 4. Let your presence whisper what your voice doesn't need to scream. You are a beacon in the midst of darkness. It doesn't need to make noise. It doesn't throw desperate shouts to get attention. Its mere existence commands respect. Its light, firm and constant, guides those around it. That's how your presence should be. When you walk into a room, before uttering a single word, you are already communicating something. Your gestures, your posture, your gaze, even your silence speak for you. The question is, have you realized what you say without speaking? Many believe that a person's strength is measured by their ability to dominate conversations. They think being heard is a matter of speaking more, of being the center of attention. But that's not authority, it's anxiety. True presence doesn't need to scream to be noticed. Those who are self-confident don't seek validation in every word. Their energy precedes them. Think about the people who inspire you the most. Respect. They are not the ones who raise their voice to impose themselves, nor the ones who try to fill every space with opinions. They are those who radiate calm, who project conviction even before speaking. Their body language is firm, their gaze is direct, their posture doesn't ask for permission, it simply is. And when they finally decide to speak, there is no need for a grandiloquent speech. A few words said with certainty are enough to silence the noise. Stoic philosophy understood this well. For them, true strength lies in self-mastery. And part of that mastery is learning to communicate with presence, not just with the tongue. Because when your energy conveys confidence, you don't need to convince anyone. People feel it. But reaching this level is not a matter of pretending. It's not about feigning confidence with a forced posture or an empty smile. True presence comes from coherence. When what you think, feel, and do are aligned, your body reflects it. Every step is firm. Every look is clear. There are no masks, no excess words to cover up insecurity. There is only truth. To achieve this, you must first observe yourself. The next time you're in a conversation or in a situation where you feel the need to prove something, stop. Ask yourself, why do I want to be noticed? Am I speaking to add value or to be validated? Most of the time, you will find that the impulse to speak non-stop comes from the fear of being ignored. But those who truly trust themselves are not afraid of silence. Learn to hold it. Silence, far from being uncomfortable, is a powerful tool. In a discussion, the one who knows how to wait and listen projects much more control than the one who can't stop talking. And in everyday conversation, the one who knows when to be quiet usually leaves the strongest impression, because the absence of noise forces the words you choose to really matter. Also, your body language speaks even when you are not aware of it. The way you sit, how you move your hands, where you direct your gaze, all of this communicates your internal state. If your mind is restless, your body will reflect it. But if you cultivate calm and self-control, the difference will be evident. An upright back, a gaze that doesn't deviate, and slow movements project confidence effortlessly. And when you finally decide to speak, do it with intention. Don't let words break the harmony of your presence. Say what's necessary without unnecessary embellishments. Each sentence must have a purpose. And remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to remain silent, because a well-carried silence can say more than 1,000 words spoken aimlessly. You are a beacon in the midst of darkness. You don't need to scream to be seen. Your presence, if it's filled with certainty, will speak for you. And when the time is right, your voice will resonate. But not because you seek attention, but because what you have to say is worth being heard. 5. Find the eyes. That's where you truly listen. You are a navigator in the midst of a storm. The wind roars, the waves hit furiously, and the darkened sky threatens to swallow you. In that chaos, your only hope is to find a fixed point, a beacon in the distance. Only then can you keep your course and not get lost. Now take it to the conversation, because amidst the noise of words, distractions, and appearances, there is something that always guides: the gaze. When you speak, do you really look into the eyes? Or worse yet, when you listen, are you present or just waiting for your turn to speak? Most people believe that a conversation is simply an exchange of words. But the Stoics understood that true connection occurs beyond the verbal. The gaze is the mirror of thought, and whoever cannot hold a gaze cannot hold a conversation. Think about the times someone has spoken to you without looking at you. Their words may sound correct, but something is missing. Their evasive gaze, the constant checking of the phone, or the restlessness in their gestures make it clear that they are not really there. And you know it, because the lack of eye contact not only conveys disinterest, it also reveals insecurity. On the other hand, when someone looks at you with intention, you feel it. You don't need them to raise their voice or use complex words. Their gaze, firm and attentive, communicates presence. It validates you. And at that moment, you know you are being heard. That connection is what separates a superficial conversation from a meaningful conversation. Stoic philosophy promotes the idea of being fully present in every moment. And this includes being present when you speak, and when you listen. By finding the other person's eyes, you anchor yourself in the conversation. You not only project confidence, but you also build it, because whoever holds the gaze without hesitation demonstrates internal clarity. They do not fear being seen, because they have nothing to hide. But here's the key. Looking into the eyes is not an act of dominance. It's not about imposing your presence or intimidating others. That's not authority, it's fragility in disguise. True strength is reflected in a gaze that invites connection, not one that seeks to subdue. It's an exchange, an invitation to be understood and to understand. Sometimes, avoiding eye contact is not a matter of disinterest, but of discomfort. The vulnerability of holding someone else's gaze can feel like exposure, as if the other person could see through you. But it is precisely in that vulnerability where authenticity resides. You don't need to have all the answers or show yourself invincible. You just need to be present. The next time you speak, give it a try. Don't divert your gaze out of fear or insecurity. Find the other person's eyes. Stay there. And when you listen, do the same. Don't think about what you're going to respond. Don't get ahead of the conversation. Just listen. Allow yourself to understand before being understood. Because true strength is not in who dominates the word, but in who dominates attention. Of course, this doesn't mean you should stare relentlessly. Visual connection should be natural, accompanied by pauses and authentic gestures. A forced gaze is as evident as an empty word. The important thing is the intention. Look with respect, with curiosity, with presence. When you do, people notice. And the most powerful thing of all, they feel it. Because in a world where everyone seeks to be heard, few really know how to listen. And whoever masters the art of listening inevitably becomes someone whose voice matters. The gaze opens paths that words alone cannot travel. There, in the eyes of others, you will find the truth of the conversation. So, the next time you speak or listen, don't seek to escape. Don't look down. Don't take refuge in distractions. Find the eyes, because it's there, and only there, where you truly listen. 6. Give space to silence. It's there where powerful words are born. You are like a musician in the midst of a grand orchestra. Every note you play matters, but what truly shapes the music are not just the sounds, but the silences between them. Without these spaces, everything would be constant noise, a cacophony without direction. The same happens with communication. Words without pause lose their strength. But when you allow silence to exist, each phrase gains greater weight. We live in a world that fears silence. Conversations filled with interruptions, rushed speeches, and immediate responses, as if being silent for a moment meant losing control. But this fear of silence is precisely what reveals a lack of confidence. Whoever cannot stand the void between words shows that they rely on noise to feel in control. The Stoics, on the other hand, understood the value of silence. They knew that in those moments of pause, the mind clears and emotions calm down. Being silent is not an act of weakness, but of self-control. Because silence is not emptiness, it's space. A space where reflection blossoms, where words are shaped with intention. Think about the last time someone spoke to you and left a pause before continuing. That brief suspension, far from weakening their message, strengthened it. It gave you time to process, to feel the impact of what was said. And when the next words arrived, they did so with greater force. That is the power of well-used silence. On the other hand, there is the silence that not only precedes words, but replaces them. Not everything deserves an immediate response. Often, the greatest act of intelligence is to let silence speak for you. In the face of provocation, criticism, or a senseless question, your lack of reaction can be the most resounding response. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you've decided it's not worth it. Practicing silence also teaches you to listen. When you don't feel the urgency to intervene, you begin to perceive what is really happening in a conversation. You read the nuances, understand what is not said, and capture the hidden emotions behind the words. This ability to observe without rushing to respond not only makes you wiser, but also more respected. But do not confuse silence with evasion. Staying silent out of fear or discomfort is not the same as choosing silence as a tool. The difference lies in the intention. Being silent because you don't know what to say is insecurity. Being silent because you know the moment demands it is power. And that conscious decision of when to speak and when not to do so is what defines a person with true self-mastery. The next time you find yourself in a conversation, don't be afraid of silence. When you feel the need to fill every space with words, resist. Allow the silence to breathe. Let your words have room to settle. And when you finally decide to speak, you will do so with a weight that doesn't need to be reinforced. 7. Do not steal the turn of someone else's silence. Listen to it. In a conversation, each word is like a stone thrown into a calm lake. If you throw too many, the water loses its clarity and everything becomes a whirlwind of waves crashing into each other. But if you allow a single stone to touch the surface, you can observe how the waves expand harmoniously. Listening is that, allowing the other's words to resonate without rushing to interrupt. In our constant need to be heard, we forget that the silence of others also has the right to exist. Each pause, each reflection, is part of the conversation. However, many act as if silence were an opportunity to invade, as if not interrupting meant losing. But the only thing that is really lost by stealing the turn of silence is the possibility of understanding. When a person speaks, they not only transmit information, they also reveal emotions, intentions, and hidden thoughts. Each pause they make is a reflection of their mind processing ideas, choosing words, facing doubts. Interrupting that process is like breaking the flow of a river with a useless dam. The current loses its course, and what could have been never arrives. The Stoics knew that self-control was the ultimate display of strength, and that includes control of the tongue. Listening without interrupting is not passivity, it is mastery. It involves resisting the temptation to impose an opinion before understanding the others. It is giving the other the space to express their truth, even if you disagree. Because true understanding does not come from the words you throw, but from those you allow to receive. In this fast-paced world, attentive listening is an act of resistance. We live in competitive conversations, where each pause is seen as an opportunity to attack, correct, or divert the topic. But whoever masters the art of listening understands that not all silence is empty. Some silences are charged with meaning, and only those who know how to wait can discover it. On the other hand, when you interrupt, you send a clear message. What you have to say is more important than what the other is expressing, and that, beyond any argument or valid reason, erodes trust. No one feels valued when their words are torn halfway, but when you allow someone to finish their thought, you grant them something invaluable: respect. Practicing this principle does not mean that you should agree with everything you hear, nor does it imply silence in the face of what you consider wrong. But before responding, make sure you have understood. Listening fully not only enriches your response, but also strengthens your position. Because whoever listens first speaks later with greater clarity and forcefulness. The next time you feel the urge to interrupt, stop, observe, let the other finish. Even if you think you already know what they are going to say, resist the urge to anticipate the end. Often, the greatest revelations arise precisely in those last moments, when the other feels that there is no rush, that they have the space to be truly heard. Do not steal the turn of someone else's silence. Each pause has something to teach you, and each word you allow to bloom makes you someone worthy of being heard as well. Because in a world where everyone screams to be heard, the real power belongs to those who know how to listen. 8. Sharpen your message as one who sculpts marble, with intention and precision. Words are like a block of marble. In their raw state, they have no shape, only potential. Each idea, each thought you want to express is like a figure trapped within that stone. But it's not enough to strike at random. If you do it carelessly, you will only get scattered fragments and useless dust. To release the true essence of your message, you need to sculpt with intention and precision. Saying something is not the same as communicating it. Many people speak without shaping their ideas. They fill the air with imprecise words, detours, and unnecessary explanations. Instead of sculpting, they strike aimlessly. And the more they try to explain, the less clear their message becomes. Confusion is not a sign of depth, it's a sign of lack of clarity. The Stoics believed that simplicity was a virtue, not because simplicity is inferior, but because clarity demands mastery. Expressing an idea with few words is like chiseling with a single accurate strike. It's not about adorning your message to impress, but about stripping it of all the superfluous. True authority does not need excesses. Every word counts, and every silence between them reinforces their impact. But to sharpen your message, you must first understand it. Before you speak, ask yourself, what do I really want to say? What is the essence of my idea? If you can't explain it clearly to yourself, you won't be able to do it for others. Internal confusion always reflects in words. That's why the act of polishing your thinking is as important as the act of expressing it. Practice also matters. Just as a sculptor is not afraid to correct his work, you should not fear adjusting your message. If you notice that your words do not generate the impact you are looking for, don't insist with more words. Stop. Evaluate. Were you direct, or did you get lost in unnecessary details? Was what you said faithful to what you really wanted to convey? Each mistake is an opportunity to sharpen your language even more. And remember, a precise message is not only easier to understand, it's also harder to forget. Clear ideas remain. Like a perfectly sculpted statue, your message will be solid, visible from all angles. And when you finally speak, you will do so with the certainty of someone who leaves nothing to chance. Sharpen your message, because in a world full of noise, the words that really matter are the ones that manage to cut through the chaos.
Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment "I am Stoic" as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.